illegally. Thus, environmental concern includes politics, economics, social realities that we need to address. In this SONA, we look at environmental issues, but often from various perspectives that to most people are more about other realms, that is, economic or political, but actually have a huge bearing on the environment. For a broader assessment, we look at the performance of the three branches of government: executive, legislative, and judicial per issue. Each will be presented by the representative of the NGO with particular focus on the issue. After presenting the situation, the respective representative will read the action that we recommend to address the situation. And to begin, may I call on Ms. Marie Marciano, Vice President of the Philippine Network for Climate Change, to tell us the issue on climate change.
So in the short time that I have, I hope that I will be able to present to you the key concerns on climate change. The best scientists of the world have declared, based on scientific evidence, hindi po hula, hindi po chismis, that climate change is the greatest threat humankind has ever faced. And the Philippines has been identified as the most vulnerable country in Southeast Asia. So, most vulnerable to climate change impacts. So now let's look at what our responses have been, or our government responses have been. In the executive, there has been a lack of focus for concerted action, as evidenced by the existence, the creation of several climate change government bodies with overlapping functions. Nakakalito po yun. Ang lahat ng nagtrabaho sa climate change issues nalilito dun sa napakaraming government climate change bodies. In the legislative, a climate change bill intended to mainstream climate change into government policy and action through the creation of a climate change commission, which will be a super body, which will delete or phase out all the other bodies that are currently in existence on climate change, has been passed by the Senate, appropriating 50 million for its initial operation. 50 million, mas malaki pa po ang ginagastos ng ating pamahalaan sa mga out of the country sorties. The lower house has passed its own version, which does not appropriate a specific amount for implementation. Now the bicameral process of hammering out a harmonized bill for final passage is expected to start very soon. Sa judiciary po, wala po yan dyan, but I just want to point out something because the other presentations will have something on the judiciary. Kasi po walang cases in the judiciary labeled as climate change cases. But if you think about it, all violations of environmental laws and all actions that degrade the environment should be seen as a climate change case. Kagaya po ng non-compliance with RA 9003 or the Ecological Solid Waste Management Act, the continuous dumping of waste that continues to emit methane, which is a very powerful greenhouse gas that causes climate change. Another is the aerial spraying in Davao that pollutes the air. And the illegal logging in the Sierra Madres, etc., etc. Kung tutuusin, napakarami pong kaso na maituturing natin ang climate change cases. And they should be addressed very, very quickly. Now let's turn to our goals. The goal should be, or our goal is, that decisive action with sufficient financial and political support by the government to empower local communities to confront the ill effects of climate change should be done, should be implemented. Kailangan po natin ng architecture, ng financial architecture, ng governance structure that will lead to decisive action on climate change. Our specific agenda are as follows. This is the people's agenda, and because this is the people's agenda, it should be the government agenda. One is to ensure that low carbon, climate sensitive, and sustainable development pathways are consistently upheld in national and local policies, plans, actions, and projects. Hindi lamang kung may national communication na kailangan i-submit. Hindi lamang kung may kailangan tayong ipagyabang. In other words, it has to be consistent. Second, push climate change adaptation and disaster risk reduction as an overall framework for determining priorities for the General Appropriation Act in the next 5 years. And of course, beyond that, because climate change problems are here to stay, and they are, it's getting worse. And so we have to be prepared for the long haul. And then we have to promote nationwide research, sharing, and replication of community best practices on local climate change adaptation measures, with priority on eco-agricultural practices to counter the increasing threats of food production shortages, water scarcity, etc. We have to consider endogenous and indigenous knowledge in all of these things. We have to build on what we already have. And finally, ensure broader public education and participation in community-level climate change adaptation planning, mobilization, and consultation on national positions in the ongoing global climate change negotiations for a stronger global accord in Copenhagen in December this year and beyond. In this regard, I would like to say that the positive development has happened recently in the engagement of the CSOs, the civil society organizations, and the non-government organizations in the negotiating process of the official Philippine delegation to the United Nations negotiations. The CSOs and NGOs have been invited or are sitting in the technical working groups created by the Philippine delegation to hammer out Philippine positions that we will stand on and we will push when we go to the United Nations climate talks. And that, in a nutshell, is where we are as far as climate change is concerned. I know that there's so much more that can be said about it, but given the time I have been given, I hope that I have given you a good picture. Thank you very much. Maraming salamat po.